And when we go live, Teddy, interesting thing happens. Manny Machado signs with the Padres. Hallelujah, Teddy. Get your quick thoughts on this one.
My first thoughts is over under on number of titles Manny Machado brings to San Diego during his tenure there. Half, and I'm betting under. You think he brings a title to San Diego? I don't. I think it's a big, giant waste of money for a poorly run franchise. What do you think?
Yeah, it's really interesting, Ted. Yeah, because when you're looking at it right now, the big news he finally signs. I'm actually shocked he went there. You figure he would have went to a bigger city if he was looking at the White Sox or the Philadelphia Phillies or signed a short-term deal with the New York Yankees at this point. But you're right. I want to see some of the details coming out because even before, Teddy, most of these guys want their money and they want their money now, but a lot of deferred money supposedly in this contract for the Padres. But it makes baseball interesting. But, man, the Padres got him? Crazy stuff.
Yeah, again. The goal of every team at the first day of spring training, opening day, you're like, yeah, this is the year we're going to win the World Series. And for the 18 Padres fans out there, they feel good about this signing. Although, boy, they choked up a lot of money into one player who, again, we know how these deals turn out. You get a couple years of production, maybe. You get a couple of injuries. The back half of the deal, every one of them is a disaster for every team that does it. So are the Padres close? No. They're not close. Is their farm system loaded? Yeah. Maybe they can make some trades and pick somebody up to accompany Machado. But again, if you're asking how many titles are the Padres going to win for their $300 million man, the over-under's a half, and I'm betting under.
No, I can agree with you there. Maybe a disaster contract long-term, Teddy, but a disaster not on the court. Hot topics of the day. Duke reclaims the top spot. And no surprise here, Teddy, because when we turn it into some gambling information that you can use, take a look at this, Teddy. DraftKings listing the props for number one draft picks in the NBA. 3 out of the top 4 guys, Teddy, reside for those Duke Blue Devils. Number one team in the nation. That squad doesn't always translate sometimes to titles when it comes to March Madness because it's one and done at that point. But interesting nonetheless, Duke back on top, Teddy.
Sure. And of course, we talk about Zion as you want to talk about a bad bet? This is the ultimate bad bet. You're laying 20-1 for Zion to be the number one pick. He's gone through no part of the draft process. He's gone through no part of the evaluation process. He stayed healthy. Will he stay healthy? We don't know. And I'm laying 20 to win 1 on this guy being the number one overall pick. No, not even maybe. That is a bad bet. I do not encourage anyone to make that wager. Even if he's the number one pick, it's a bad bet. You're laying 20 to win 1.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe if it's after the season, it's the night of the draft, information from a Woj bomb comes out, Teddy, that he's going to be number one, then maybe you make the minus, 2,000 bet. But at this point, broken leg, tearing ACL, things can change pretty quickly in the NBA. But just something to keep an eye on there. Duke loaded up. And by the way, Teddy, tomorrow, big ACC tilt with Duke and North Carolina. We'll be sure to cover it here on That Betting Show. Battle of Virginia last night. If you're watching this game, say, hey, Kyle Guy's a pretty good three-point shooter. Ty Jerome can handle it up front, but the game is always in contest. Say, wait a second. They were up big. They, closed out the game, was easy winner, but this is a gambling show, Teddy. Came right down to the end. Who would have thought a missed dunk would turn into a final 30 seconds of intrigue between Virginia and Virginia Tech?
Well, yeah, Hokies missed a three-pointer. Then Hunter blows the 1-1 for Virginia. Then Alexander Walker makes the layup. 6-point final score. Oh, it closed -5.5. Total sneaks over. 117.5 was the closing number. It got to 122. So over bettors cash, Virginia bettors cash. Yet another winning bet for the Virginia Cavaliers.
They just continue to cover. I think we covered it yesterday, Teddy. 7-1 heading into that game against the spread on the road. Now moving to 8-1. Look, if you're not going to turn the ball over, you're going to play really good defense. And I think at one point last night, Teddy, Virginia Tech was something like 3 for 22 from the 3-point line. And still at the end of the game, look, I didn't have a ticket on this game, but if I did, I would have been going wild. Because even at the end, when he makes the layup to make it a 6-point game, why they're not shooting the 3-point shot, I don't have any idea. But then throw it in, 4 to 5 seconds left. They call up the dogs and don't foul. Always adding some intrigue to the rest of the game, but certainly interesting to watch. Here's something that should be interesting to watch. And Teddy, while we were punching up the script this morning, heading into baseball season, it's funny. Manny Machado, moments before we went live on the show, signs with the Padres. And now we're going to preview his old team, the Orioles. And Teddy, when I was typing in 47 wins, I actually had to fact check myself 2 times to make sure that 47 number was actually relevant. I forgot how bad those Baltimore Orioles were in 2018.
The only way you forgot how bad the Orioles were last year is if you weren't betting against them over and over and over again. Again, Baltimore finished last year minus 53.7 units. That means when you're betting 1 unit on the Orioles in every game, 162 games, you lost 53.7 units on that squad, and they were never favored. They might have been favored in some game in April or something. They were minus 115, maybe it's somebody in June. But basically, they were underdogs in 150 of those games plus, and you still couldn't cash any winning bets with Baltimore. Just to put that minus 53.7 in perspective, the second worst team, ranked number 29 in baseball in profitability last year, that was the Washington Nationals. They were minus 24.9 units, and Baltimore was minus 53.7. They lapped the field. On the run line, you say, oh, take them plus 1.5. Maybe there's something to be said, plus 1.5. No, on the run line, they were minus 32 units, worst in all of baseball, 68 and 94. And again, they weren't laying a run and a half; they were getting a run and a half. 83 unders, 73 overs last year for the Orioles, so a slight tick to the under. But you look at this roster, and you say they don't have a number 1 starter, they don't have a number 3 starter, they don't have a number 5 starter, they got nobody in the bullpen. They have nobody on the, you say, oh, Chris Davis will bounce back. Mark Trumbo will bounce back. One would think that this team will win 50 games this year. Teams don't often win less than 50. Do they get to 60? Huh? The markets think they might. Not this better. Baltimore, and of course, we've read so much, last year during the season, in the offseason, so much about the front office in Baltimore where nobody's on the same page, where you have different factions in the front office pushing for different methodology. That is not the way to turn around the worst franchise in Major League Baseball right now. I see nothing but continued losses for the Orioles in 2019. What about you, Donnie?
I mean, Teddy, looking at the numbers here, it's really astounding. The 5-year win trend for them, 96 in 2014, 81 in 2015, 89, this little rebound for 2016, then dropped to 75 and 47. And there's not even anything on the horizon for in there, because when you look at, let's try to be competitive. Number one, you're going up against the New York Yankees and you're going up against the Boston Red Sox, 2 teams that are ready, refueled, high payrolls, and expected to dominate. And then you throw in those little battle-tested Rays. You get a tough division. So if we're looking at the Orioles win total this year, 57.5, which is astronomically low. But then when you look at the product that's going to go out on the field, who are they actually beating at it? So you're saying, all right, I hope Trumbo bounces back from 17 home runs and pushes that into the 30s. We hope Chris Davis doesn't strike out 300 times this year and can rebound and hit somewhere in the 30s for home runs. But then you look at in a smaller hitter's ballpark, because when you look at, Teddy, the Boston Red Sox play in a hitter's ballpark. They play in a hitter's ballpark in Camden Yards. The Yankees are in a hitter's ballpark. And then you take a look at the starting rotation, the estimated front 4, xFIP of 4.28, 4.47, and then 2 guys in the 5s. This is going to be an amazing year to watch for the Orioles. And we talk about like value that you might be able to get out of them. They're going to be wildly outmatched in just about every game they line up, which is going to be interesting to watch, Teddy.
Sure. I mean, the one thing I'm definitely thinking about with Baltimore right now, I'm thinking about playing some games over the total. I don't trust the pitching staff. The pitching staff was abysmal last year. It is no better in 2019, at least on paper. The bullpen's problematic. When you have a bad bullpen, those are teams I tend to want to bet over the total. And of course, this team couldn't hit their way out of a wet paper bag last year. One would think the offensive production will be at least a little bit better. The offensive production is a little bit better. This team's going to be flying over the total because the pitching staff isn't going to get anybody out.